The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated here
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hypno Toad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Star Trek Strange New Worlds, brought to you by the good people at Paramount Plus and other production companies that aren't listed on this particular Wikipedia page. The second season of the American television series Strange New Worlds follows Captain Pike and the crew of the Starship Enterprise in the 23rd century as they explore new worlds, strange as they might be, and carry out missions throughout the galaxy during the decade before Star Trek the original series, or TOS, as the cool kids call it.
Cool kids, Mark. Cool kids in Star Trek.
That's right. It was produced by CBS Studios in association with Secret Hideout, Weed Road Pictures, HMRX Productions, and Roddenberry Entertainment, with Akiva, Goldsman, and Henry Alonso serving as showrunners. It premiered on Paramount Plus on June 15th and ran for 10 episodes until August 10th. It was estimated to have a high viewership, contrary to the Critical Drinker and Friends' opinion. And audience demand, it was praised by critics. Not any of them were on YouTube, but that's besides the point. A third season was ordered in March of 2023. And joining me tonight is my brother from another mother, my science fiction friend, ladies and gentlemen, David Wright. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you?
A little stuffy, but you know,
the show must go on.
The show always goes on. You know me. I once podcasted with a broken freaking jaw for like 6 months.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, with cancer twice, COVID.
Yep, nothing brings a good Mark down. So here we are.
No
again.
podcast, no life tattooed on your knuckles or something like that.
Podcast life right across my forehead.
Yeah,
that's okay. My ex-wife now has podcast widow across her forehead, so it's all good.
Okay.
No joke. I brought that up recently on Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox, that she referred to herself as a podcast widow. And the reaction from Robert Cooper was fucking priceless, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
I feel kind of guilty now.
We'll talk later.
Sure.
We're all caught up. We said that we wanted to talk Strange New Worlds, and life happened. So, socialness happened. And eventually I said, we're going to find time to do these things. I just need more time. And we doubled up this year. We did Strange New Worlds a few months ago, season 1. And now we're on the latest season, which ended in August. This being the end of October. We're finally getting to it. And I have to say, like, I had heard, the Critical Drinker and his crew. I don't know if you know this or not, but they're really like, they can be very negative.
Just a bit.
Yeah, they don't like a lot of things that are generally well accepted by the by the mainstream audience, and they were not favorable towards this season of Strange New Worlds. So I have to be honest, Dave, I wasn't looking forward to this. I wasn't looking forward to watching it. I agreed to do it. I like talking to you. I like Star Trek, and I'm always willing to give things a chance. But I had heard about the musical episode. I'd heard about the Lower Decks crossover. I think you had mentioned it. And I was not excited to sit down and watch it. I kind of just did it out of obligation. And I have to say, and this is where I kind of wanted to start tonight, I really enjoyed this season. I don't know what, I mean, I know why certain elements are crying about it, but those people cry about anything that isn't written specifically for them.
Hmm.
Taking a step back and letting go of prejudices, I thought this was a very well-written season.
I have to agree. Perfect it is not, but it was overall, yeah, like the writing was better than the first season, and the first season was pretty good. There was still a bit of silly Kurtzman-esque things in there, but they seem to manage to excise most of those out of this season. Like I heard like, oh, the season was so dumb, and I'm like, no, actually I don't think it was that dumb.
I don't know
overall.
what was dumb about it.
I mean, maybe the musical episode, but it's a musical episode. Like, you were expecting some sort of serious explanation. Like,
I mean, I guess we'll start there. We don't have to do these in order.
Sure.
I love the musical episode. The rationale for it was as good as any other. They saw something in space. The space thing did a thing, and it made them all do a song. And I think the juxtaposition, and maybe this is why people hated it as much as they did. The juxtaposition of serious science fiction television. First of all, that's an oxy-fucking-moron. Second of all, say that 3 times fast. The juxtaposition of serious science fiction, something that, the fan base takes very seriously, and over-the-top Broadway musical, because I'm me and I'm not beholden to those kinds of prejudices, thought that was hilarious. And what a talented crew this is. I don't think I don't know how many of these guys are actually Broadway trained, or how much of this was, dubbed or whatever. But however they got however they made the magic, I enjoyed the songs and I enjoyed the premise behind it. Like, anytime that we have kind of an emotional outburst, it makes us sing, and then the admission by the security officer that, like, when we sing, we're singing our innermost thoughts. This is a security threat. We're going to say something out loud we shouldn't. This has to stop. And then there's a ticking clock and about like, well, if we don't solve this problem by X time, then, Y is going to happen. And there was a palpable threat in that episode, to kind of bring it home. I thought they did an excellent job with it.
Yeah, it was more lighthearted, and like one of the things that I like about Star Trek is that it can go to different places. And this was more of a bottle episode. This was, they were having fun. It showed that they were having fun. Mm-hmm. It's clear that they did their best to do a good job. Like there was certainly, the effort was on the screen, and that was nice. But yeah, like it's it didn't bother me because we're just having a fun time. Yeah, it's assuming everyone was singing using their real singing voices. Very impressive for the cast to do that. The Klingons were hilarious.
Oh my god, yes. The
moment they said there's Klingon ships on, it was like, I better get me singing Klingons in this episode. And they were short, but they were sweet. Like that was
all you needed. Any longer, and you're out of the funny box. Any shorter, and you're not getting enough of that. It was just the right amount of singing Klingon. Yeah.
But like, is it my favorite episode of the season? No, like I'm not a big musical guy, but I am. It was a good version of what it was.
Yeah. So I am a big musical person. Not that long ago, I had somebody on and we did a triple feature of all musicals. And Alexis and I have talked about a couple of them. I've had my kids on to talk about In the Heights.
Yeah.
I am not running to the Straz to go see a musical anytime soon, but on the occasion that I get to go, there's something I want to see. Like, I've seen Spam a lot. I've seen back when I lived in New York City, I saw Rent. I saw Jekyll and Hyde, Cats.
Okay. Yeah, big Cats fan.
And so I'm somewhat familiar with musical structure, and this nailed it. Yeah. Right down to the conclusion, the finale of the episode. It was like, well, maybe we can get the thing to self-destruct if we sing hard enough and loud enough with enough voices. We'll produce enough energy, and the energy will make the thing explode. It will save the day. And so they have their big grand finale with the whole cast, and it's great. I know, like, I was reading or seeing one of the YouTube videos reviewing this, and they referenced Star Trek Lower Decks, and it was like the shot of some of the ensigns sort of like dancing down a hallway.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a really good transition. That one, that might have been my favorite part of the film, this episode.
I just, I can't abide by the people who are like, you're taking something that I love and kind of making fun of it. It's like, they're not, though.
Yeah, they're having fun with it, but they're not making fun of it.
No, they're not saying this is Star Trek the musical and they did a whole number on photon torpedoes or some shit. They weren't making fun of Star Trek. They were having the Star Trek people out of character-ish sing and dance. And I don't... There's a TOS episode with tribbles in it. You want to sit there and fucking tell me this show took itself seriously all the time? You can suck my dick.
Yeah, it's like the Trouble with Tribbles or the Naked Now. That's the one where Sulu's shirtless running down the hall with a sword.
Yeah.
Star Trek, even though they had the excuse of it was like the 60s, bit of a goofy show at times.
Right. And I think if you're trying to do sort of a spiritual prequel to TOS, I think you have to have some, like it can't be, I mean, even Deep Space Nine, which was as serious gets at times, had its silly episodes. I think it's okay to have some levity in your show. The other thing I was going to talk about is there was the plot of the episode, but the musical itself had its own plot. Yeah. And it followed musical structure and format. So there's the bit where, and we can kind of transition into this if you want to talk about it, the relationship between Nurse Chapel and Spock throughout this season. Because there was a will they, won't they last season, and we talked about this when we reviewed it, where they have to like fake being in love to fool pirates or whatever it was.
Yeah.
This season, I didn't bring this up in our prep, but I'll bring it up now. There's a great episode, which you're married, and I don't know how well you get along with your in-laws, but I've certainly I've certainly had this moment with both my in-laws and my parents where. So the setup of the episode is T'Pring and Spock have to do a bunch of like Vulcan pre-marriage ceremonial stuff, but because Spock is always away, and the mom isn't, so the mom's not a huge fan of Spock. There's a lot of prejudice about him being half human, and then deciding to go to Starfleet on top of that.
Yeah, she's a borderline Vulcan traditionalist / supremacist.
So on the one hand, doesn't even want T'Pring to marry the guy. On the other, well, if you're gonna marry him, let's get on with the show already, because homeboy's never home. So like, enough already. Enough fooling around. So at the same time that this happens, Spock and Nurse Chapel are on a mission together.
Yep.
And I feel like this is a bit of a writing trope with this show. Yeah. They go into a nebula of some kind.
Portal, subspace. Yeah, a thingy.
Yeah, it's like everyone saw Generations. It was like that every episode. There has to be some sort of space ribbon nebula schmagegi.
Yeah, an anomaly. Yeah.
Right. And this particular one was like a living one where it
was like a portal into like some sort of transit system used by hyper intelligent transdimensional beings.
Sure. So the ship has an accident. They nearly die. Spock saves Chapel, but Spock like gets severely injured in the process. And this is great because again, we're playing with modern things. The aliens are like a customer service,
it's set up. It's like interdimensional OnStar, basically.
Yeah, and they were like, he was injured, so we fixed him. Except that his instructions were all cockeyed because he's half Vulcan and half human. So like, we didn't know what to do with him, and so we just matched him with the one that was next to him. Like, there's a logic to it that's fucking hilarious.
Service was done. No need to contact us again. and then they just hang up.
Well, that was the thing.
It's like, wait, but
well, like he's half human and half Vulcan, and they're like, we need to fix him. He's broken. Well, we don't know what he is. Like fucking Gonzo from the Great Muppet Caper. He's whatever.
So they used they looked at Nurse Chapel as their example, and she's fully human, so they made him fully human. That's, I mean, would it really work that way? Probably not. But within the bounds of Star Trek technobabble, sure, it's things as silly as this have been done many times before. Yeah.
It was an excuse.
Yeah. I mean, like they did an episode where Kirk was like split into two, one being all of his positive emotions, one being all his negative emotions. Explain to me how that works with quantum physics. Don't care. The point of the episode was about, like how we view our dark emotions versus our positive emotions and how you need both to make the whole person and so on. Anyway, we're not here to review that episode, but
so this is a very Three's Company episode.
Yeah.
Okay. The setup is, oh no, the in-laws are coming.
Yeah.
I'm human.
Yeah, and I have to be very, very, very Vulcan, and it's very, very, very important.
Like, I've never seen such like hard sitcom structure.
It was a Star Trek episode. Yeah,
it was like that was it. It was just like, oh no, the in-laws are coming, and like it's like a Lucy episode. Like I have to make the meatloaf. Oh, the meatloaf is burned.
Yeah.
I like, what am I going to do now? Like, okay, yeah, so he's very human and has to do very Vulcan stuff. And he doesn't tell Dupreen, which is even better. She's like, you're different. He's like, whatevs. Yeah. And so there's
I do not know what you're talking about. I am exactly the same as normal.
Right. And Spock, who part of his character structure is resolving his human and Vulcan sides.
Yeah.
And knowing that he is a third thing. He is half Vulcan and half human. He's not one or the other.
Yeah.
And so he's like, at some point in the series, I don't remember when, they talked about Vulcans have emotions. They actually have wider, greater, more impactful emotions than humans do, which is why they suppress them. Because apparently Vulcans would be Klingons if they just let them, or Romulans.
Yeah, Romulans and Vulcans used to be the same. There was a huge war where the Romulans basically split off, if you want the canonical explanation. But
thanks, Dave. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
So, my expert panelist, everybody.
Yeah.
They would be fucking psychos if they just let their emotions go. So they suppress them, and then without that Vulcan suppression, he's stuck now having to like deal with the slings and arrows of prejudice with his human emotions, and he's just like, my girlfriend refers to it as vibrating. Like when I'm so mad about something and I can't like let it out, I will actually like one of these. I'll just actually vibrate.
Yeah.
You could feel the angry energy off of me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of him through this entire episode, and it's fucking great. But at the end of that, Dupreen and him, they get through it. They're able to fool everybody, and then I think he finally has like an outburst at the end with the mom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because he has to do like these 3 trials. Right? He has to like make like the family tea perfectly. He has to sit there and be insulted by the mother-in-law for like 60 seconds and not show an emotional outburst.
We've all been there.
Yeah. It's they've ritualized the stereotypical meeting of the in-laws, and she was good at it too.
Yeah.
Like if it was me in the chair, it's like, are you sure we don't need a bigger timer? Because it seems like you're not done yet. But
yeah,
I don't think you'd appreciate that humor. But and then the last one was he has to do like a mind meld with his mom, where she shares a memory with him and he reacts to it or something like that. Anyway, that's all stuff that they've made up, but it's not the worst for considering that like the new Star Trek as far as making up cultural details and rituals has been pretty awful. I refer you to Picard season 1.
Yeah,
but this one, it kind of worked out, and so he passes. He gets through the first 2, and then they figured out how to put him back before he does the third one, and then he's back to being mostly Vulcan by that time, and then the mother-in-law is like, you aced it, you cleared it all, like that was the best a Vulcan could do, and then Spock's like, well, what about a human? It's like, oh, a human could never do that. It's like, joke's on you, bitch. Rips his ears off. Like, I was human for the whole time.
That's right. And I would have gotten away with it too, but one for you meddling kids.
Yeah. But that was just kind of his like, I'm throwing my rubber ears in your face, kind of thing.
So here's the thing, and this is what I think the show excels in, which also probably rubs a lot of the fan base the wrong way. It deals very well with human drama and emotions.
There's more emotion and drama type stuff in this show, but I think in this season I'll get more into
more
this maybe
soapy
later.
than science fiction.
It's a bit more soapy, but they did a pretty good job of putting in more of the science fiction stuff in this season and making it tie into that. Like, you have the silly thing of Spock loses his Vulcan half and has to live as a human now, and you sort of get him learning to appreciate that side of him more. And like for me the big moment was like you have like Amanda, his mom, who's a human. Like his mom is human, that's why he's half human. She shares this memory of like his a typical day at school, he says, and it's like, oh, that's not very exciting. And then later we found out that this was the first day at school that the other Vulcan kids asked Spock to play with them. Like he had gained a level of acceptance, and just how happy she was at it. And the bit at the end where Spock tells her, like, I never knew that's how you felt, and I never knew how much discrimination you faced being a human alone on Vulcan, and you never complained, you just took it so that I could have the best possible life. Like that, I was tearing up, like with that sort of the sacrifices a parent makes for their child sort of thing. And you sort of and after that episode, Spock has more of a, even though I am my Vulcanness has been restored, I want to get more comfortable with my human side. I want to develop that side of my heritage instead of suppressing it all the time. And that was a great character moment for Spock. And it's funny because I think like when Discovery started, I think it was Kurtzman said that if we have to choose between telling a good story or being true to canon, we're always going to go with telling a good story. This is the first time since he said that they actually achieved that. Where it's like, okay, this is not canonical Spock. Like this, if you look at Spock's arc, the original Spock, this doesn't really fit into it. Him being in a relationship with Nurse Chapel and and getting in touch with his emotional side. No, that didn't happen. But it works in this story.
What I want, it's funny that you glommed onto the story with the parent and the emotions therein, but I think it's great. And it didn't quite hit me the way that it hit you. What hit me?
That's fine.
No, and no, it's all good. It's good conversation because it gave me something to think about. Like, oh yeah, that was there. I guess it just didn't resonate with me. But I think you and I are maybe in like two different places in life right now. Because what did jump out at me is the love triangle between Chapel, Spock, and Dupreen. Because this specifically, because it wasn't just he's not like cheating on Dupreen or anything like that, but he clearly has feelings for Chapel, but he's loyal to Dupreen and he's jumping through all the hoops. And Dupreen is not. So when she comes on the ship, and the first thing she tells Spock is essentially, "Oh God, my mom." Like, if you've ever heard a mother talk, if you've ever heard like your girlfriend or your wife talk about their mom and how they're driving them crazy, I wish more women watch this show because they would really relate to that. Like, there's stuff about Strange New Worlds I think it would appeal to a female audience. Reason number 37 why this doesn't appeal to the fan base. But her talking about the mom cracked me up because I was like, yeah, I've been there. I've heard that. But the other side of it, and this is more of what I was keying into, what jumped out at me was Dupreen, in all the ways a partner can be, wants to be Spock's trusted partner. Like, she's not a nag necessarily. She's very Vulcan, and that can be grating. But I would say Dupreen comes across as earnest and loving and caring, and she wants Spock to trust her. And I think she gets frustrated with Spock because Spock sometimes is like, you're a little too princessy for me, to go there with you. Like, I'm willing to do all the hoops and I'm willing to do all the things, but I don't trust you in the ways a partner should trust their partner. But he does Nurse Chapel. Now, granted, Nurse Chapel had a functional role here, and this is what's great about the writing of this kind of drama. Because on the one hand, you can say, oh, because who hasn't been here? Oh, you'll do it with her, but you won't do it with me. You're good with her, but not with me. What the hell? I'm supposed to be your whatever, your partner. You're this, you're that.
Though Dupreen doesn't really know anything about Nurse Chapel. That's not the direction she was coming from. It was more like, yeah, why didn't you trust me with telling me what was
Right.
happening? And
But
Spock
the-
is, yeah,
But
his response.
the reason why he trusted Nurse Chapel was because Nurse Chapel was a functional, scientific, medical person trying to undo the problem.
Yes.
And so, it's a very, you got to understand what I'm trying to say here. It's a
Okay.
very guy logic thing to be
Mhm.
like, I didn't tell you, you're useless in this endeavor. I told the person who could fix the problem.
Yeah. Well, it was he was going to tell T'Pring, but then she's just like, I just can't take anything else right now. So
Right.
he's like, well, okay, yeah. He was just like, yeah, I don't really want to put gasoline on this fire, and then
Right.
which that's pretty much a trope in itself. Is the whole
Mhm.
they're about to tell him, but then they give him some new information where it's like, maybe I shouldn't tell him just at this
Right.
moment. So, but yeah, unfortunately, he goes like, well, Vulcans aren't very good at lying, so I didn't want to risk that. It's like, I mean, yeah, we've all been there where you're in trouble and you're trying to smooth things over because you don't understand what's in the immortal words of Jeff Foxworthy. You ever feel like you're taking a test that you haven't studied for?
We've all been there.
Yeah, and unfortunately he just picked the wrong angle
But
to
that's what I
go
love
there.
about that. It's because again, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but there's Dave. I hate to say it, but in this dopey show, there were levels here. There were different levels of things going on, and that's kind of why I'm excited talking about it. Because sometimes we do these, I'm just like, yeah, and this happened, it was fine, and this happened, it was fine.
Yeah,
see our Vox Machina review. But like when there's this level of writing, even if it's soapy, I really enjoy it. I can dig into it, and so again, I say, like, on the one hand, yeah, he didn't want to tell T'Pring because like she was like, another thing, no, thank you. He's like, all right, I'll keep this one to myself. But also, he didn't have to tell T'Pring. Nothing T'Pring was gonna do was gonna help. So he was like, all right, I won't. But T'Pring has girl brain.
Yes.
And she's like, that bitch. No, you should have told me I'm the girl, right? I'm the partner. And he's like, boy brain. But why? Like, you're not gonna help. There's nothing can be done here. She's the one that's helpful. Oh, she's helpful. Fuck you. Like, I loved all that stuff. Like, call me crazy. I like a good romantic drama in the middle of my science fiction story. So going all the way back to the musical episode, at the end of the bit with T'Pring fucks off. T'Pring's like, maybe we should see other people. Yeah. And Spock turns around and goes, well, I see one now. And him and Nurse Chapel
take a break.
Yeah. Him and Nurse Chapel finally hook up, and the will they won't they of Star Trek, they do. Yeah. And no sooner do they hook up, but they have all kinds of problems, and Nurse Chapel is a busy businesswoman who don't need no man. And so she's, how many fucking things did she apply to?
Yeah, she wants to go to some conference or special program that's like 2 or 3 months long. Yeah.
I feel like that's her character. Half the time she's trying to leave the fucking Enterprise. But she's got
it's conflict, right?
Yeah. So no sooner than Spock's like, all right, we can finally and tell me if you haven't been here in your life. Hey, girl of my dreams, we can finally be together. No, I have to go away now. I have to go somewhere else. Which goes back to the musical episode of she gets into whatever college, program.
Yeah, if she gets into a decent program, whatever it is,
she gets into the space version of like Brown University or whatever, and there's a whole song about it. She does a whole song of like, I'm a busy businesswoman and I'm going away, yay, feminism, and they're all singing along, and Spock's just like, the fuck.
Yeah, it's like laid it on a little heavy there, Christine.
How many of us have been there? I thought we were a thing. We are, but settle down. I have busy businesswoman things to do.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Let's sit down and let me explain to you what's going on. And it's only for 3 months, and we can call. We've got space Skype. It's fine.
Like, Spock, how do you feel about long distance relationships? I just got out of a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
It was great. And so going, like I said, going all the way back to the musical episode, I loved that we have we have the setup. Spock does his song going, oh no, I'm singing. Why am I singing?
Yeah.
And then it's like we're kind of moving through the cast. There's a subplot about Khan's granddaughter, whatever the hell she is, and Kirk.
Lanon, or think it is.
Yeah.
Lon.
I don't have the cast list in front of me just yet.
Yeah.
The security officer who has the hots for Kirk, which happened in a different episode, and it was a different Kirk, but that's not the point here. They have their little thing. They have their will they, won't they, why would they kind of going on. They have their songs. At the same time, fucking Pike is having a problem with his girlfriend. Oh, it's so soapy. Is having a problem with his girlfriend. Like
a lot of romantic subplots this season.
I want to go on the boring fucking vacation trip. I'd rather die. And they made a song out of it, David. They made a song out of it. They do the bit with the Klingons, and then finally they did the thing with Nurse Chapel. And then finally the whole thing kind of comes down to Uhura, which give me a minute because I need to talk about that too. But Uhura, like, I'm always alone and I'm always fixing things, and why doesn't anyone want to say hello to me song?
Yeah.
She does that. And then we're into the finale. And it's
like,
just
girl, Mariner couldn't get you to party.
It was really great musical structure. And I can't say, I will argue with anybody listening to this review or otherwise that wants to complain about that episode. Go smoke pot, have a drink, get laid, do whatever it is you need to do, but fucking relax. It's okay to have fun with these things, especially when it's as well done as that episode was.
Yeah, I think my only real issue with the episode is the songs I thought were okay. Like there wasn't really any earworms in there for me, but that's just, it's personal preference.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to defend it in this way only.
Yeah.
It was a broad enough general Broadway that I think it works. I don't think it needed to stand out. I think it needed to be familiar.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Like I say, I didn't hate the episode. It was just like, okay, yeah, musical episode. They did good.
Sorry, go ahead.
What I would say just before we move on, and this sort of relates to the Lower Decks episode as well, is they were well placed within the season, I thought, because like if people are just talking about what's with this silly episode, we want dark and deep, gritty science fiction. It's like the episode before this one ends with like a murder and had a frame job, and the one after is basically mass genocide season finale. Like they tend to position the sort of lighthearted episodes to kind of break the tension a bit. Like that was a heavy episode. Okay, let's do something light now, and then we'll jump into something heavy.
They definitely make it for binging. I understand that they're released weekly, but I watch them all at once because I watch them right before we review them. Yeah. And this was very much like, oh, let's deal with something heavy. Let's deal with something light. Let's do heavy, light.
It felt a lot like a 26 episode season, just there were only 10 episodes.
Right. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Which does bring us into the Lower Decks episode.
Sure.
Whatever the character's name is, Quaid from fucking The Boys.
Boimler?
Boimler.
Yeah.
Boimler.
Yeah.
If you say so. It starts off with this. Can I tell you I wasn't prepared for that, by the way? I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. I'm like I'm not paying attention to what the episodes really are. I'm just sort of it's on, I'm doing stuff.
And I really wish they hadn't advertised that before the fact. That would have been just the best. Like, holy shit, I can't believe they're doing this.
That's kind of what happened because I didn't know that. I wasn't paying. I didn't know. I think somebody had mentioned it, but if I don't see it, it doesn't register. And like I said, I'm not paying that close attention, so I didn't know that there was another episode. I assumed it was going to play next.
Yeah. There was a big marketing push behind that episode for this season.
So I see the lower deck stuff, and I'm like, wait, I'm not watching Lower Decks. I'm watching Strange New World. What is this?
Yeah.
And I had to check it 2 or 3 times. I'm like, am I still on Strange New World? Oh fuck, I am. Wow, they started off with the animated Lower Deck show. Hot bananas. And so they do a portal, and Boimler goes through the portal, and it's Quaid from The Boys, and
like everything looks so real.
There was what I like about that episode. One, I thought they did a really good job. The actress who plays Mariner, and then the actor who plays Boimler, I thought they did a good job of playing their animated counterparts. I thought the structure of the episode worked really well because it's very much like, we know we don't belong here. You know we don't belong here. Let's just work on getting us back. And there's a lot of tension in the We know what the rules of time travel are. God knows in this universe we've done it enough times.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like, they're trying in earnest to not break the rules, but they're like stumbling over themselves.
Yeah, well, they're basically fanboying and fangirling out over being
right
in this era.
It was a fun episode. I have to say, like, Anson Mount.
Mm-hmm.
I said of him last season, I feel like I feel like he's the least important person in the cast. And I'm sure that's what rubs a lot of people the wrong way about this show. There's so much focus on Uhura and the other characters and not a lot of focus on Pike. Pike's kind of there.
Yeah, Pike got a lot more to do in the first season, I think. That was
yeah, he has even less to do. Well, that's the thing. I complained about how much little he had to do in the first season, and it was still more than this season.
Yeah, but which is funny because like the whole show is basically based off of how good his performance was in season 2 of Discovery.
Here's what I'll tell you. I don't mind that he's not the focal point.
Yeah,
this is more ensemble than Anson Mount focused, which I think works.
Yeah, well, they were going for a more episodic ensemble show, like more Golden Age Star Trek, and it's paying off very well for them.
Pike's the way Anson Mount plays Pike is it's almost anachronistic, like in the sense that would somebody. I don't even know if anachronistic is the right word. He feels more like he belongs on the Orville than he does on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that is kind of like we both watch Red Letter Media. That's sort of the big criticism Mike makes is that it feels like these are all like too young, cool college kids on a ship with their teacher, who's also the cool teacher. Not his exact words. This isn't like mature adult professionals who are the best of the best of the best humanity can offer.
How many times did Chris Pike say hi when
yeah. Well, that's like their favorite clip, right? Is like him beaming down. He's like, "Hi," like like who?
How's it going?
This is the captain of the Federation's flagship, and he's like, "Hi."
Yeah, he is like jazz captain. He is not.
Yeah, he's pretty chill, pretty laid back, and I don't mind that. It's just it's his command style, and different captains have different styles, and that's okay. But yeah, he's kind of like cool dad, space captain almost.
Right. So the whole time he's dealing with them, he's now kind of like me on Damn You Hollywood. He's like annoyed space dad. He's like, I have these bumbling kids fucking around, and like, I don't want to hurt you, but you can't be here. And we need to get you out of here fast. And I enjoyed that. I think the bigger point that I was trying to make was him being that way lends itself to the other cast members being able to focus on their drama more. Which again, if you came into the show going, I want the further adventures of Christopher Pike, and I'm not getting it. Yeah, I get why people don't like the show then. But I don't care. I just want to see good stories. And I'm fine with him just kind of being like a center peg that's kind of holding all the strings down, so that nothing gets too far away, but he's not really the focus. Go ahead.
Yeah, like for me, I think it's just I like how he's very confident and very capable.
Yeah,
like you never get the feeling that he's a bumbling fool that they're all taking advantage of. Like he knows his ship, he knows what's going on, he knows how to do his job. It's just he doesn't go around like there's a stick up his ass all the time. He's
he reminds me of Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, well, I think there was one where. I think in first season it was like Uhura said something to him and he's like, "Oh, don't tell me someone put you up to this." Like basically like you've been practical joked. I know it's like it happens. Like he's just he just comes off as like a very competent, respectable captain. And I like that. Like he's not space Jesus. He's not superhuman. He's not an idiot. He's just a competent captain. Like it feels right that he has the job that he has.
Yeah. I don't. This isn't the complaint most heard around these parts. Is the MCU sucks. The second most complaint that we hear on the Radulich Broadcasting Network is why do men get treated like my grandmother would say? Why are all men treated like boobs or rapists? And it's nice that he's neither.
Yeah, exactly. He's it feels like a natural, just good captain character. And he's not perfect. Like he has his own things he's struggling with. Like he has his relationship issues this season. And he doesn't always have everything under control on the ship. But he keeps his head level in the crisis and is able to kind of help guide things through them. And he does get a couple of episodes to sort of shine. Like, I think it was the 4th episode where they go to the planet where like people lose their memories.
Yeah.
Like that was more of a Pike focused episode. And I think he got to flex some muscles there. And the season finale also, I thought was pretty Pike focused, but yeah, he's often more of a supporting character in the other ones. I mean him being Spock's wingman in the Bring episode was priceless. Like when her dad's like, "You got any more of those snacks?" He's like, "I got you, bro," sort of thing. Just
that's really funny. It's like, "Oh, I made this traditional Vulcan thing," and she's like, "The twirl on that is way too it's way too flamboyant or some shit." I was like,
the seasoning's not quite right. And he's like, I used a bit of extra salt because we're on a spaceship and I couldn't go to Vulcan for fresh ingredients. Like, that poor battered husband, like
enjoying his snack way too much.
Yeah, he was just like, "This is really good." It's like, but it's not traditional. It's like, I don't care. It's good.
Right. This is really good. No, it's not traditional. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. I was just trying to make good food that you would enjoy. I'm sorry.
I was having a moment that I enjoyed. I apologize. I'll go back to being broken and defeated.
And I do like that they gave him like cooking as a hobby. It's nice to kind of, like he's a nice character.
Yeah. Gives him something to do in a scene. When the bit where like Spock is human, and so it was funny. It was a funny juxtaposition because you had him teaching Spock to cook when Spock had his Vulcanness, and then they double the scene later without it, and he's like, "What is that marvelous smell? It's bacon!"
Yeah, he just love it. Just shoveling bacon into his mouth. It's like, maybe you should slow down. Why? This is amazing. I'm making up for lost time. It's like, oh, I don't feel so good.
We've all been there.
Ethan Peck had a good time during that episode.
Going all the way back to the Lower Decks crossover, the other character, Mariner, comes in about halfway through. Yeah. And it was a very Mariner moment because like they're about to send him through the portal, and she comes through the portal. Like, what are you doing? Like undoing everything they've just done. She's like, "I'm saving you." Like, it's very Mariner.
But you just made it worth. Yeah.
But her interactions with Uhura, like, I could see how easily Mariner might grate on a lot of people's nerves.
Yeah. I think a lot of the early backlash to Lower Decks was mostly due to Mariner being very very strongly pushed, but then kind of third episode it settles down and it becomes a bit more ensemble. But anyway, for more of that, please listen to our Lower Decks reviews.
Yes. What I liked about her in this episode was Mariner reminds us that that all work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and we've all been there, where you're trying to think through a problem, you're trying to solve it, you're trying to fix it. I know I get this way. You're like hyper focused, and someone says, "Take a fucking break."
Yeah.
Take a break, get some air, get some oxygen to your brain. Eat a snack, do whatever it is you need to do. Bang your head against the wall, but walk away from the problem for a few minutes.
Yeah, go for a walk.
And and Mariner, who I think is at heart is a good Starfleet person, but it's not her entire identity, and she's very much like, that is who I am. This is my job. My job is not my identity, which is something I relate to big time. The last thing the last episode I wanted to talk about was the cliffhanger was look at the character's name right. Where is she? Okay, Rebecca Romijn as Unachin Riley, #1. We find out at the end of the first season that she's an enhanced person. It's illegal to be enhanced. She didn't tell Starfleet. So she's violated all kinds of rules here, and she's summarily arrested. And this season, they follow up on that pretty quickly. Like, they don't. One of the things I liked about this is they didn't let this drag. And it leads to a civil rights case. Yeah. I'm a sucker. Like, I used to watch a ton of Law and Order. And I'm a sucker for a good court case movie. Yeah. A Few Good Men's one of my favorites. Sure. I like the inner workings of a trial.
Yeah.
Another show I loved, and I just voracious appetite for this show. The People versus O.J. Simpson.
Okay.
Holy shit, that was good. And I like the idea of just because you have a mountain of evidence doesn't mean you're going to win the trial.
Yeah.
You still have to convince a jury. And there's all kinds of lawyer tricks and things that can be done and said to all you have to do is create doubt.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing about our legal system. I don't know if it's this way in Canada or in Japan, but in America, all the defense has to do is create doubt and doubt in one person. And that's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And so you have witness testimony. And what you do as the defense is you invalidate each witness. You make it so that, sure, they're able to give you testimony that says this thing and that thing happened. But then you're like, yeah, but aren't they a terrible person?
Yeah.
Do we really want to trust the testimony of this bag of shit? And there's a jury member going, I don't, as a matter of fact. I don't want to trust their testimony. And then you fucking you hang a jury. It's great. The American legal system is a sight to behold. So what I loved about this episode, again, there's layers upon layers here. It's really good writing.
Yeah.
You not only have this very basic thing of you're not allowed to be enhanced. She was enhanced. She didn't tell anyone. She should have told someone. It's a pretty straightforward case that the Federation should have won hand over fist. But they bring in the civil rights attorney who essentially puts the entire Federation on trial.
Yeah.
She does a cross-examination of one of the admirals that basically turned him into Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. It was great. Like, rarely was there an episode where I was glued to the television and I was like, oh my God, like what's going to happen? Like I watched a lot of this passively, even the stuff I liked. I was like, it's fine. What's happening here? This one, I was like, oh my God, because I love that kind of legal and verbal wrangling and that they do. And she just fucking eviscerates this guy. And eventually they get her exonerated. She's found not guilty on the wildest of like technicalities.
Yeah.
It's a great episode.
Okay, that's my cue. Yeah.
Yes, David. Eventually, I stop
yeah.
talking.
No, so, yeah. It's just like, I'm gonna let him keep going. Like, get it all out. Yeah. I thought it was, it was a decent episode. Again, this isn't the first civil rights trial episode I've seen, even in Star Trek. So,
what other ones were there, Dave? This is where you like to show us your Star Trek knowledge.
Okay, well, from Next Generation, the two I would go with is Measure of a Man, which is Data a person or property, and then there's one called The Drumhead, which is more on like crazy conspiracy theories and kangaroo courts and that sort of thing. It's a good episode. Probably got one of the best Picard speeches in it. Deep Space Nine, I think, had one or two trial episodes. I forget their titles, but yeah, like it's we've seen these done sort of before. I think even TOS had a couple of trial episodes in it. But yeah, for a trial episode, it was decently done. Like everything is well acted. There are the right amount of twists and turns. So some arguments I kind of thought like you're going one direction and then went another. Yeah. Like when she kind of went after the Prime Directive, I thought like it would be more of a, the Prime Directive like forbids interfering with other cultures. Like, well, in this culture, genetic engineering is A-okay. So what the heck? Instead, it was just more like, well, you break the Prime Directive all the time. So why do you follow this rule? Which it's not the worst argument, but I kind of
Can we talk about that for a second? How like it's an interesting thing that that the writers of this show really looked at the Prime Directive and went, which we're struggling with this sort of thing now. Yeah. And Robert and I had this conversation, I think, last week during the Exorcist review. Yeah. That's us for you. Yep. Robert made a statement of not all cultures are created equal. Some cultures are just bad. Okay. And I don't want to debate his point, but I think what he was trying to get at was there were things that happen in a culture and we're just supposed to blindly accept it. It's like, but we shouldn't, should we? Should we accept, clitoral mutilation? Yeah. More moral relativism. Yeah. That's what can only go so far. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
And
if I come over and murder your entire family in front of you, and it's just like, well, I thought it was morally okay to do this. It's like, oh well, I mean, who am I to judge what's right or wrong? Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people would agree that is a bad thing.
We struggle with this with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has the luxury of having half the Earth's oil in it, so we let them get away with a lot. And they're our ally, as far as NATO countries go. But think about like women can't drive. I think in Saudi Arabia, or they just got the right to drive.
Yeah, I think they changed it now. But but for let's say American standards or Canadian standards, the women's rights are we wouldn't approve. Most people would not approve.
I think because I was having a debate about somebody about the age of consent, I looked this up, and I think in some parts of the world the age of consent is like 12.
Yeah,
it's really low. That's my daughter's age. And yuck.
Yeah, not a comfortable thing to be thinking about. Let's just go with
and
that.
Right. And so that's my point. Like when they think about like the idea that they're trying to get across is in that culture, they weren't it wasn't like a steroid thing where it was just like we're cheating in the Olympics. The way they said it, and it reminded me of the Mocklin debate in the Orville, where the Mocklin.
Hey, there's another civil rights trial episode, not in Star Trek, but may as well be. Yeah.
Where the Mocklin say that we gender switch our girls to boys because men will have an easier time acclimating to the harsh Mocklin climate. That's why they do it. Maybe they don't need to anymore, but now it's the way the culture operates. And there was a whole thing about that. And what she says of her particular species is we don't do this to be better than anyone else. We do this to survive in our atmosphere, survive on our planet.
Yeah.
Should that be held against? Should doing what we need to survive be held against us? And then the other side of it, and I thought this was an interesting part of that episode, that the whole reason why there's this prejudice against enhancement is because of Khan and the eugenics war.
Yeah.
And it very much reminded me of the war on drugs, where it was, we have this very particular issue that we are having a difficult with. So we're going to completely, we're going to, make all drugs illegal. We're going to dump all of this money into law enforcement because we don't want this one problem that we can't seem to get a handle on. Read about it. I don't want to get into it. But my point is and now it's 100 years later, and we're starting to bring some of that back. We're starting to say, maybe we overdid it. Maybe marijuana doesn't have to be legal. Maybe we can try some different harm reduction models here because
we've been trying this for 80 years and we don't seem to have made any progress. So maybe maybe we should need to try something else.
Right. And so and I think that's what they were trying to get across here with this episode was it was like, hey, your giant fear that Khan and the rest of his he-men fucking steroided up muscle men are going to tear apart the world. We get that this happened, and there's other ways to go about preventing it without a wholesale prejudice against an entire race doing it to survive. And I thought that was a very interesting, thoughtful argument, which I make that point because you and I have been talking a lot of Star Trek over the past couple of years, and a lot of the new Star Trek is dumb as shit.
Yeah, which is why this season's so good because this season is not dumb. That there are things here and there that I thought was okay. That's kind of silly, but overall, I would say 80 to 90% of the season, I would say was not dumb, or at least not dumber than good Star Trek quote unquote has been in the past.
As long as I have something to talk about, I'm going to give it a pass on a pass fail.
Yeah.
And we've been at this for an hour, and I've had to stop myself from talking so I can let you in on the discussion. So clearly it resonated with me. Yeah,
which is good. This is what good Star Trek should be doing, is getting people to talk about things like moral relativism or relationships or civil rights, immigration, genetic engineering, artificial, anything.
Right. Absolutely.
Like even if it doesn't change your mind on whatever it is your position is, if it goes, I never thought about it that way. That's the goal, is to explore what it is to be human and what it is to be, living in this world.
Yeah.
And that's what, so instead of just saying like, oh, well, this is what I think, and everyone needs to believe that because clearly I'm right. That's dull. Like, yes, the people that agree with you will, clap, amazing, well, it's like, have you ever seen like any of those videos on YouTube where it's like, so and so calmly educates so and so and destroys their argument, blah blah blah, and like whenever I click on it, it's like, oh, someone who said something that agrees with the person that posted the video said a thing they agreed with against someone they disagreed with. There, like there's never that epic takedown. It's just, like this video feeds into my personal biases, so I think it's amazing.
If 2011 is the year that the Radulich and Broadcasting starts in earnest with the 401 Ground and Pound show.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this for 12 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And in 12 years, I have agreed and argued with every single person I've had on the podcast.
Yeah. Mostly Robert, but
I've done most of my podcast with Robert, so yes.
Yes.
What I don't like about Critical Drinkers, I think it's Open Bar, or not Open Bar, After Hours.
Yeah.
He has like a panel of like 4 or 5 other people because sometimes there's a dog in there.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like dogs?
Yeah. We're a death metal band. Our singer's a dog. That's great. People like dogs.
Well, I mean, some death metal does sound a lot like growling, so I can see it working.
Yes, that's an actual bit. Pat Gessner does these. Is a TikToker, does these band pitches, and he did like a bunch of them in a row, where it was all like weirdo bands, and so he was just like, we're K9 is. We're a death metal band. Our singer's a dog. Can't see how that possibly could go wrong. People like dogs. Anyway, the point being, what I don't love about his After Hour show, because I typically like a lot of the Critical Drinkers stuff.
He does make some good points. Other things I don't agree with, but there are some good perspectives, I think, in there.
But when he does the podcast with the other guys, it's 5 or 6 guys all saying the same thing.
Yeah,
all hate fucking modern pop culture, and it's like, don't you have one person on here that would be like, I would hate to continually just be in an echo chamber. Like that's, I mean, again, I probably run up the down staircase on that. I'm probably against the grain. I like debate, and conflict, and a sharing of counter ideas. And like if there's stuff I've said even tonight, and you're just like, well, I kind of disagree with that, and here's why. Like that's great. Like bring it on. I don't want agreement. I don't want yes men. And what drives me nuts about his show is it's all guys all saying the same thing, just taking turns, all like kicking the same thing. It's like, this is boring. I need more than this. So I bring that up just to say, like, if Star Trek is challenging you, if you're watching Strange New World and you're feeling like some of your beliefs and practices are being challenged by this show and it's making you feel weird, good, it's doing its job.
Yeah.
This should not be a warm blanket to make you feel comfortable at night. It should be entertaining, but like, I think,
sometimes they can do fun. Yeah, sometimes they can do something light and fun, like pew pew, lots of things explode. Yay, we had fun, but but what has made the series, I think, like the whole franchise, last as long as it has done is because it didn't play it safe. It went to some tough places. It said things about them. It asked questions, and it tried to interact with those things in a complex way that acknowledged more than one perspective. And that, I think, is what made it so special. Like,
look, I'll go as far as to say, if there's people in the Critical Drinker verse that didn't like this show, maybe it's too much show for you. Maybe go back to something a little bit more your speed. Go watch The Boys, I guess. I don't know. Not that The Boys is bad. We sang its praises too, but might be a little bit more, less challenging for you. Dave, anything else about season 2 of Strange New World that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I guess to go to the most negative things is the first episode did not rub me the right way. Like after that episode, I was not into really watching more of the show. It wasn't like horrible, but I just kind of felt like the whole
episode
that was when they go to like this mining world where there's like Klingon and Federation settlers that are conspiring together to restart the war because they want to sell dilithium to both sides or something like that.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just kind of like very simplistic, like war profiteering type storyline. I thought the whole like Chapel and Umbenga basically, we have to get to the bridge of the ship to send the message, to Enterprise of what's going on. And, instead of like, well, we need to like sneak or come up with some sort of clever way of getting it, it's like, let's just use performance enhancing drugs and punch everyone.
I'll tell you, I don't even remember the episode. It's how little.
Yeah. And they get to the end of the episode where like the Enterprise has saved the day, but the Klingon captain is like, oh, this is suspicious. Like, what are you guys up to? You must be up to something. And, it's basically Spock just like, well, let's just go get drunk. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like, it's like, this is not how diplomacy works.
Wouldn't it be great though?
Like, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if just all we had to do was like, okay, let's have a kegger and done.
Yeah, like look, let's get the Israelis and the Palestinians over here, and we'll drink fucking grain alcohol. Fine.
Yeah. I think if that had worked, we would have tried that already. But, yeah, I wish that were. Yeah, I agree. I wish it was that easy, but it like I say, it just kind of felt like a bit too. Well, it's a bit too neat, and yeah, again, that was kind of dumb. But yeah, then we got the courtroom episode, which it was again. I thought, okay, that's a fine episode, and then it was probably like the third episode was like that was a decent time travel episode, and yeah, I think the only
what do you think about the guy who plays Kirk? What's your opinion?
I mean, he's okay. I mean, Shatner is Shatner. It's kind of hard to really get close to being Shatner, but he kind of embodies somewhat the spirit of a young Kirk, I think. Very headstrong, creative. Yeah, like I don't think he's bad as Kirk, but he's certainly like, I don't see like, oh man, he's like the spitting image of William Shatner.
He has none of the sex appeal.
Yeah, I mean, no. I'm thinking of like 90-year-old Shatner here right now. I'm like, wait,
well,
what are you talking about?
I'm not.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, 60s Shatner. Sure.
Yeah,
Sorry, Will.
My problem with modern television writing is it feels at times in certain quarters a little devoid of, I'll just use the phrase again, sex appeal.
Yeah.
I feel like my daughter likes her some fiction. She loves her anime, as you know. You talked to her about it. She likes her shows. She tells me about them all the time. She likes her musicals. She's not a fan of anything having to do with sex. Okay. And which is fine. She's a 12-year-old girl. Yeah,
I mean, I think most fathers would be quite happy for their 12-year-old daughters.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. Yeah. I'm not complaining.
Yes. Yeah, that's one big thing you don't have to worry about yet.
But I'm making that point to say this.
That being said, Mark, be strong. The next 8 years are going to be interesting. Yeah.
This show sometimes feels like, what if my daughter wrote Star Trek?
Okay.
Someone who is decidedly not interested in sex or anything sexy.
Yeah.
Wishes fiction existed without it. And that's the thing. And maybe it's a subject that people don't often talk about. Or if it gets talked about, it's in the abstract. It's kind of as a joke.
Yeah.
I remember I can't remember which comedian it was talking about. Kirk fucked everything on that Enterprise. I once saw him fucking some green bitch. That kind of a thing. It's like, no, there was wider and greater sex appeal in Star Trek, and even in The Next Generation, there was some sexual chemistry with characters. There was something on that level. And what kills me, because this is not just a Star Trek problem, this is a problem with Mark. What was it? I think it was Mike from Red Letter Media who was talking about Star Wars. He was like, "Doesn't anyone have sex in Star Wars? God damn it!" Sex and love is a part of the human experience, and when your media is absolutely devoid of it, it shows. And when I look at going all the way back to the guy who plays Kirk, when you take the sex appeal out of the Kirk character, it doesn't feel like Kirk anymore.
Yeah.
That's my major problem with that actor, because I think he's fine. But it very much feels like, what if a 12-year-old wrote Kirk?
Yeah.
And I don't love it for that reason.
Yeah. Like, I don't think the show really needs Kirk in it. Like, I would have been totally happy if they hadn't put a version of Kirk in. Just, this is Pike's show. This is Pike's Enterprise. And then maybe like that's the end of the show is, Pike has his accident and is incapacitated and Kirk takes over as the captain and that's it. But anyway, they decided not to go that way. I don't hate it, but yeah, I don't think it adds a whole lot other than it's just there's a guy playing Kirk.
That's the problem. It feels like a guy cosplaying Kirk.
Yeah, where Ethan Peck is not doing a direct Leonard Nimoy with his Spock, but at least it's Spockish
than the other guy.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, it doesn't really bother me. Yeah, it's not really a big part of the show for me. Like I say, he's okay.
Okay. It's not a subject I feel the need to beat to death, but you brought it up and it made me think about it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm like, huh. Because I couldn't, as I'm watching the show, I'm trying to enjoy it and not just think about it critically. I kind of like watch it and then I think about it afterwards and then we talk about it and stuff comes out. And it wasn't until you brought him up that I was just like, what is it about him? I can't quite put my finger on it that I did. I'm like, oh, that's right. No sex appeal. He comes across as like Kirk the eunuch. And I don't love it for that reason.
Yeah, but, Star Trek hasn't really ever been like a sexy show, quote unquote. But yeah, like there are interpersonal relationships and whatnot, which is a really funny statement when you like if you learn anything about Gene Roddenberry. Like, that man had some interesting views on relationships and
it certainly
monogamy.
Did, Ollie.
Yeah, but. Yeah, but sort of the one sort of big complaint I would give this season, and it's not a huge complaint, but it does tread over some well-trodden ground a few times. Like I say, we've done civil rights trial in the future. We've done time travel to current year, wherever it's being filmed, to stop some time assassination shenanigans. I did think it was funny that they did Toronto instead of, like New York or LA. They even threw that line in there where Kirk's like, "Yo, is this New York?" It's like, "No, it's Toronto."
And they point to his side says it's Toronto.
Yeah, but
I really was waiting for them to do the stupid subway bit again.
Yeah, well, I don't think they did. But yeah,
not the subway bus.
The bus. Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't get any. It's poetry. It rhymes. I do wonder how they got. I do wonder how they got across the border without passports. But anyway, that's my one Mr. Wizard for this episode.
I got in Don Toretto's car that he was currently driving from China.
Sure, that went to space, didn't it? Yeah, and like the episode where like Uhura gets the nightmares where they're at the refinery in space, like. 15 minutes into the episode, I'm like, okay, the space gas is an alien life form, and it's like the nursery for their young, and the harvesting of the natural resource is killing their children, and this is a cry for help. So, like, this is like the 7th time this has happened in Star Trek. It's kind of like, and then I have to wait, another, 45 minutes for the characters to figure it out.
Yeah, next season, I'm sure we're going to get an episode where somebody is trapped in a time loop.
Yeah, or there's an accident on the ship and everyone's trapped in their own rooms and have to like solve various different problems.
Yep.
But overall, like I thought it was good. Like there was a lot of like setting things up character-wise at the beginnings of the episodes that paid off at the end. There were some character through plots, like Pike and him dating the other captain, Spock and Chapel, their relationships and its bumps and everything. Uhura and like her dealing with her parents' death in a shuttle accident and sort of how to accept that, and Hemmer's death. I really miss Hemmer. He was a great character. I wasn't a huge fan of the replacement engineer. She was okay, but I just love Hemmer's. Yeah,
I like her.
Oh, yeah, like she wasn't bad.
I like the actress though.
Yeah.
And every time I see her, I always think like, oh, have fun storming the castle. Like I'm not a witch. I'm your wife. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that was okay. I mean, like the show did a lot of different things, like that Dr. Umbenga episode where they do the flashback to the war. That was dark.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good war episode. I thought.
Oh my god, and him stabbing Robert Wisdom at the end. Yikes.
Yeah, it's like whoa, that got heavy at the end.
And the way I didn't love the way they handled that either. They're just like, oh well, Robert Wisdom started it. You're right. Never mind.
Yeah.
Go back to.
Well, I think it was self-defense or something like.
It was glossed over as what it was.
Yeah, I mean, in Mbenga's defense, he said, like, "Look, buddy, back off. Not interested. I'm going through a lot right now. Don't push me." And
was all I couldn't help but notice your pain. Share it with me. It's like, don't get off me.
Yeah. He did not take the hint. I mean, that was an interesting episode, and like having these two characters dealing with this sort of trauma from the past and how they both sort of are dealing it in different ways and how that sort of collides.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Like I like the fourth episode where they're on the memory loss planet. But even though that the characters have lost their memories, they're still kind of have their same personalities.
Right.
Like I love it at the end where he goes to confront the bad guy. He's like, it's like, of course you would start a revolution. Like just that sort of, like again, like even though it's a sort of like silly sci-fi premise of radiation that makes you lose your sort of short-term memory or whatever it is, the idea that it reveals who you are as a core person, and you have just Pike is like, no one gets left behind. I'll give my life for any member of my crew sort of attitude, and versus what the other character did instead. It was. I like that. I like that. It's not so much huge, big idea, social stuff, but just like using the sci-fi stuff to get into interesting character stuff about what it is to be human. And I think they did a really good job with all of that.
Right.
The show looks, sort of final thoughts. The show looks great. Like the set design, is really good. I like the retro 70s aesthetic. I think works really good. They're sort of keeping the color scheme of the original. I love how all the rooms sort of are shaped like they are part of the ship. Like you can tell that you can, like this is part of the edge of the ship, and there's all the bulkheads, but they're also,
what do you call it? Like sometimes they design these ships like they're hotels in space.
Yeah, like you look at the Enterprise D from like Star Trek Next Generation, and it's like a Holiday Inn in space. like everyone's like playing tennis and going to play croquet on the holodeck or something like that, and every so often there's a science room. I mean, I get it. Deep space exploration vessel, you kind of want it to be a place where people are comfortable living for months on end without contact outside. But it looks like this is an actual ship with structure. I don't know how they did engineering. Like I don't know if there's CGI or forced perspective or they actually built the whole damn thing. But like when Uhura was doing her big solo song in the singing episode, like I was just going like, look at the reflections of all like the workforce stuff on the floor. Like, did they actually build this, or did they CGI that in? Or like,
my God, what? If you ever want like two perspectives on Star Trek, sit me and David next to each other to show us the same fucking scene. Oh my, the musical. Dave was like, look at the light in the background.
It happens. Like, well, I mean, it was like the whole Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? Rocket's having this emotional reunion with like all the like raccoon pups in the cage, and he's learning where his origins are. And I'm just sitting there going, why the heck is the writing on the cage in English? It's like not the message you were supposed to be taking from this scene. I understand that, but just my brain is like everything else is an alien language in this movie. Like, but again, that's the joy of the podcasting experience. Like hearing what different people think of. But
that's your takeaway.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the big conclusion, the big cliffhanger is they're in the middle of this fight with the Gorn.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't even remember anymore. I watched it earlier today and I've been like half sick today. So, but they're in a big fight with the Gorn, and take it away, David. Like, how does it end?
Okay, so Pike's love interest, she's been like inseminated with Gorn eggs because like they're species that lays their eggs in other life forms, and then they hatch out chestburster style.
Perfect.
Not pretty. So they're in sickbay. They're trying to get her all fixed up before she explodes in, a bunch of baby Gorns. Gorns are like lizard alien things, though you don't know. Yeah. So they met Scotty, like Pike and a couple of people were able to escape, but the rest of their away team were stranded on the planet with the survivors of the attack. And the Gorn have beamed them into one of their ships where they'll presumably be tortured, eaten, or
Oh, that's right.
Incubators.
That was it. Starfleet said come home, but he was like, but my people, and they were like, fuck your people.
Yeah,
so,
and the Gorn are like just throwing everything at them. Like they are way outclassed. The ship's being torn apart. Like it's
right.
And yeah, Pike has to make the decision: do I stay or do I go? And then that's to be continued.
Well, hopefully, it's definitely been renewed for a third season. Apparently, this is very well received. I
mean, I have been, shall we say, a little bit critical of Star Trek. In the Kurtzman era or the Secret Hideout era. So
the Rotten Tomatoes reported a 97% approval score with an average of 8.5 out of 10 based on 84 reviews. Each episode received an individual approval score of 100, except for Charade, which has an 83.
Oh, that was the DePaul episode, wasn't it?
That was the one where Spock.
Oh, that's Supreme. Sorry, wrong Vulcan.
Metacritic gave it an 88 out of 100 based on 11 reviews, indicating universal acclaim. Vanity Fair and Vulture all included the season on their list of best series of 2023 so far. So overall, even if it's not capturing the hearts and minds of the Star Trek fan base, enough people are watching this.
It's not capturing the hearts and minds of some people.
Yes,
in the Star Trek fan base,
it's doing well. It's well enough that they're continuing it. Well enough that. Look, we savaged fucking Picard season 1, and we won't even review Discovery. So for people watching this, going, "Oh, you're just Star Trek apologists," we're really not.
we weren't big on Picard season 2 either. Just pointing out. I
didn't even finish it. I had to finish it before season 3.
Yeah, CBS is not sending us any checks unless Mark, you're holding out on me.
I don't hold out on anyone.
But I'm pretty sure we're not getting any checks.
We are not. So anyone watching this going, you're just fanboys, you're just apologists. Like, we're really not. Like, if I thought the show sucked, I'd say it. Frankly, if I thought the show sucked, I'd be having a conversation with David about, like, can we not do this anymore? I don't have the time. But I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy talking to David. So we will do season 3 when it comes out, fairly close to when it ends, not 6 months later.
Yeah.
And with that said, that is our review of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2. Yesterday, myself and Robert reviewed, we went over 2 hours with this, Killers of the Flower Moon. We discussed the life and career of Martin Scorsese. I said a line in the podcast, if you would like to know what movies look like, it looks like this. Go watch it. My son, who I've movie trained and actually used that phrase recently, he was like, I can deal with this. His mother took him to go see Dumb Money, and they were worried that he wasn't going to be able to sit through it. And he was just like, Mom, I'm movie trained. Like, oh, my son. He asked me about Killers of the Flower Moon. He was like, can you take me to go see Killers of the Flower Moon? I'm like, that's going to be a watch at home, bud. He was like, why? He's like, why?
Because your bladder capacity is insufficient.
I was like, because it's almost 4 hours. And my son, without missing a fucking beat, Jesus Christ, 4 hours? Why? I'm so proud of you.
I think he might be a little young for it too. Not even just in terms of maturity, but just like he'd probably be bored out of his mind.
I was gonna say that's a movie we're gonna watch at home in parts.
Yeah. Good call. I would probably watch it in parts too at home.
Yeah, not for nothing. I may need to rewatch it because there was parts I dozed off in. Not that it's bad. Yeah, I'm just really tired.
Again, that's a long time to ask for someone to sit in a chair and watch the thing. I mean, and I watched like half of Strange New World season 2 last night. I enjoyed it, but that was a long night.
Speaking of long nights, tomorrow, the unholy trio of nerds will be reviewing Fall, the House of Usher. Friday, we're going to drop the latest, or rather Thursday morning, movies that don't suck and some that do. They're looking at The Boogeyman, and they're looking at The Exorcist Believer, which we reviewed last week. Then Fall, the House of Usher, and then this weekend we'll have a re-airing of Jesse's Kung Fury alternative commentary, but also myself and Robert Winfrey are back in the commentary chair. We're going to be reviewing. We're going to be doing a live reaction to Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. On the 29th, Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays, we've got Woods of Ypres, 5 Gray Skies and Electric Light. That was Jesse and Robert Cooper, if I remember correctly. I don't think I was in on that one. Monday, there's an Unspoken Issue, Spirits of Venom. And then Tuesday, I'm back with Jesse. We delayed this for 2 weeks, one, so that I'd have time to watch it too, because I had a date that night. So so Halloween night, me and Jesse will be getting together to talk The Do Season 2. I'm going to skip out on this because there was like a million people on this podcast, but Damn You Hollywood will be doing a special Wednesday night edition of Five Nights at Freddy's, hosted by Alexis. Robert will be there, Jason Teasley, and Dorian Price from Freaky Pictures. They'll all be on that show. Thursday, I've got a double shot doing the Red Curtain trilogy, which consists of Strictly Ballroom, Romeo and Juliet, and Moulin Rouge. That's with Sean Comer. You're not. And then Jason dropped off of this because he didn't give a shit anymore. But then Pat picked up the ball and then he dunked it. So we'll be talking Winning Time Season 2. That's Thursday, November 2nd. David, when are you back?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I would have been on the Dune show, but that got moved. And
yeah,
are you keep complaining about that?
Are you coming on for the Marvels?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, no one wants to see the Marvels. I don't blame you.
The discussion for that one will be interesting.
Robert will be fucking pantsless is what's going to happen. Unless you're on something between now and then that I'm not aware of or that you haven't asked me on.
I don't think there's been anything scheduled. I mean,
you're not back in January for Disenchantment.
Disenchantment. That's next on the schedule. Invincible Season 2. That's coming out soon. I'd be happy to hop in on that one whenever that gets done.
No one's asked me about it. Are we doing Lower Decks?
If you want to do Lower Decks, I will totally do Lower Decks Season 4.
Why not? I'll find a spot for Lower Decks. It also won't be until January, but we'll find a spot for it.
That's fine. I'll have plenty of time to watch it. That's next on the list.
Perfect.
Yeah, all right, folks. TV Party Tonight, Hell of a Boss, Has Been Hotel, I think is starting next year, so I might check that out.
You just did Ahsoka with Alexis not that long ago.
Yeah. It was just me and her. Everybody dropped out.
Yeah, Loki will be coming up soon. I guess you'll be on that.
I'm not really interested in Loki.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you did all the Marvel and Star Wars stuff. Fucking sorry.
I mean, it's much like you. Real life kind of gets in the way, and
I hear you.
So it's one of those.
All right, well, we'll figure it. Dave's not going anywhere. He'll be on something somewhere.
Yeah. As things come up that I'm interested in, and people want to talk about them, I will.
Dave's like the Snoop Dogg of this podcast network. He just fucking shows up with weed. He's like, I'm here.
Sure.
All right, man. That's it. That's our review. Thanks you for hanging out with us for an hour or so. Be well, be safe, and behave.